Hello, I'm Paul Richards with the latest from science. The Australian Academy of Science began 66 years ago. It was established by fellows from the Royal Society in the UK. The Academy has had a close relationship ever since, and this year, 3 of our fellows have been honoured with election to the Royal Society. That close relationship has never been more important than during the COVID-19 pandemic, as experts across the world work together to chart our way forward. Joining me now is President of the Australian Academy of Science, Professor John Shayan, who is among the new names elected to the Royal Society. John, welcome.
Thank you, Paul. Good to talk to you.
You too. What does it mean to be elected a Fellow of the Royal Society? It's the world's oldest scientific academy in continuous existence.
Well, I mean, it's obviously a great honour to join such an illustrious group of scientists. And clearly, Paul, in every area of human endeavour, recognition by your peers is particularly special.
Now, evolutionary biologist Professor John Endler and molecular and cellular biologist Professor Jane Visveda are the other 2 Academy Fellows to be elected this year. Have you crossed paths with John or Jane during your career?
No, look, I obviously know of John Endler, but he works in a slightly different area, Paul, so we haven't actually crossed paths. Jane Visveda, on the other hand, I know very well. When I was director of the Garvan Institute of Medical Research in Sydney, we tried on a couple of occasions very hard to attract Jane to come to Sydney and lead up our cancer research program. And unfortunately, we just couldn't get her out of Melbourne.
Now, the Academy this year has announced its inaugural Suzanne Khoury medal. What can you tell me about that?
Well, look, the Academy was really thrilled to be able to announce that medal to recognise the enormous contributions that Suzanne has made over her lifetime to understanding the role of genetics in cancer. So this is a medal which is now open to anyone working in the biological sciences. In this particular year, with the exception of applied medical science, because we have other awards for that at present, but any leading contributions to biology will be recognised by the Suzanne Khoury Medal. And it's a real honour for us to recognise Suzanne in that way. She was also president, of course, of the Academy, I think from 2010 to 2014. So apart from her basic science contributions, she's also provided great leadership of Australian science.
Your own contributions to molecular biology and medical research have been significant. What inspired you in the first place to pursue this path?
Oh, look, Paul, probably, I suppose, best answer that is a good question, but I'd best answer it. There's probably 2 major issues there. That, first of all, my PhD supervisor and mentor, Lynn Delgado at the Australian National University, while I was doing my PhD, really inspired me into molecular biology. It was a new field just emerging, and he really got me incredibly interested in it. He was a great teacher. And then as I went straight after that, I went to do a postdoctoral research fellowship in San Francisco, just at the time that the whole gene cloning revolution was beginning. And that really, again, inspired me to get into that sort of area of gene cloning and its application to medicine. So those 2 things, Lynn's initial teaching and mentorship, coupled with the opportunity and the chance of being in San Francisco, right time, right place, just took me off on a great career, which has been absolutely fantastic. It's wonderful to be a scientist and to be able to, almost every day of your life, find out something new that wasn't known before. It's very exciting. It may not be breakthrough stuff every day, but there's always something there.
That's fantastic, and such an important message, I think, for perhaps younger people considering a career in science or early in their career. What advice would you give to them, and what is the real reason that we need science, that they might want to pursue a career themselves in science?
Well, look, I think there's so many great opportunities in science, Paul, these days. Always has been, but I think today more than ever, because we live in this period of exponential growth in our very knowledge of life processes and other basic physical processes. And that exponential growth in knowledge produces so many opportunities for discovery, to use that knowledge base, to put your own imagination in there and discover new things. So it's an incredibly rewarding career for young people if they're thinking of starting out on that. And the main advice I would give really is just follow what you're interested in. If you're interested in a particular area of science, follow it because you will be successful. There's enormous opportunity there.
And the value of science, I think, almost has been no more clear during this COVID-19 crisis. What would you say is the reason why science matters, particularly when we're dealing with a situation like this?
Well, look, there's no doubt that science and the knowledge base of any particular challenge to humanity is so important. You have to be able to understand the challenge and apply science to provide the cures or the solutions. It's particularly obvious, I think, in something like the COVID-19 pandemic that we're going through at present, because that's quite acute, it's quite specific. We know that, if we get knowledge of the virus very quickly, and worldwide we've done that in an amazingly short time, the whole sequence of the virus, understanding how it works, how it differs from previous viruses, what makes it particularly nasty, etc. That knowledge and that ability to instantly provide the scientific way of getting at it, it points us down the right road. Otherwise, we go down all sorts of side tracks. And so science can contribute enormously to that. But it's not just in the acute phase either, Paul. It's a lot of the more longer term, much more complex problems like climate change and environmental pollution. The only way out for humanity is to apply science, to apply it in a sensible way, to make sure it's facts and not just sort of made up stuff. One of the big challenges, of course, especially in these more longer term scientific challenges like climate change or environmental pollution, one of the big challenges is, of course, social media and the internet. On the one hand, that's a great advantage to transmit the right information out to the whole community. On the other hand, it gives a great opportunity for various small groups with particular biases or agendas to cherry pick bits of information and pretend they're talking real science. And this has been a big challenge for academies like the Australian one around the world to make sure that the real information gets out there. And that's where I have to take the opportunity to congratulate you and your team for providing the videos, the webinars, etc., of actual scientific fact in these particular instances in a way that the community can understand them. And if the community understands them and supports the true science behind it, then of course our political leaders follow because they listen to the voters.
I appreciate that, and it's a small part of the role that we play with the wider Academy. In response to the COVID-19 crisis, can you tell me how the Academy has been placing the vast expertise of the fellows at the service of the nation?
Yeah, well, certainly in a variety of ways, Paul. I mean, one of them I just mentioned, of course, is you and your team providing the videos and the webinars to provide the information to the general community. Another major thing has been development of a COVID-19 database of scientists in a whole different range of areas who can provide expertise relevant to the COVID-19 challenge, whether that be molecular biology and sequencing, or whether it be medicine, or whether it be population health, or whether it be the social sciences and effects on mental illness of social isolation, and a whole variety of things. But there's now a database put together by the Academy of Science with the help of the other learned academies to provide that source of those names. So political leaders, businesses, communities, if they need an expert in a particular area, they can have confidence that they'll find them on that database. So that's been another initiative. And more recently, we've been working closely with the chief scientist on a thing called the Rapid Research Information Forum, which has been set up so that when government particularly has questions that they really need an answer to as far as the scientific facts go, an answer in a couple of days or so, they can ask that group and we can quickly assemble the right experts to give them a proper, comprehensive scientific basis to that question. And of course, these have been things like what's the advantage of testing sewerage and other sort of wastewater things in order to detect the presence of the virus in certain areas in the population? What's the risk of reinfection from people that have already been infected? A whole range of things like that, which we have the expertise to get the group together and provide immediate response. And I think the team at the Academy of Science and the other academies who have played a big role, together with the chief scientist, this has become a really useful tool for government to use.
Now, the vast experience of the Fellows of the Academy I mentioned is about to expand. We're going to be announcing the election of our own Fellows soon. I realise that is still under lock and key, some of those details, but what can you tell me about that at this stage?
Yeah, well, we will announce our next intake of Fellows in May, as you said. And as you mentioned, I can't actually say the particular names. A point I would like to make, though, is in the election of the fellowship, which of course is very competitive. There's a lot of great scientists around Australia. We should elect a lot more, I personally think, but we are restricted under our Royal Charter to a certain number per year. The big challenge for us, Paul, has been in the area of gender equity. At present, only about 15% of the Academy Fellows are in fact female, and that's been an historical fact, developed over time, like most other areas of the world and the community. So we've been working hard on trying to rectify that area. And over the last 5 years, we've managed to elect an average of about 34% of women to the fellowship, which has been fantastic. And that's been through a whole range of initiatives like reforming the nomination process, mentoring young women who are in science to make sure they're prepared to put their name forward, etc. But the end result has been this year, when it is announced in May, I can assure you'll note that in the new fellows, about 40% of them are female. So we're doing very well at present, but it's a work in progress. But that's been the biggest challenge. There's no shortage of talent. It's a matter of getting the right people elected.
And just finally, John, it's been 2 years since you began as president. When you were elected, you said it's a daunting task to help coordinate the Australian scientific effort to advise government on sensible scientific policies and to be a source for government policymakers, the community and business of unbiased, clear scientific facts. Do you have any reflections on that?
Reflections on that, Paul? Yes, it was I think, believe it or not, I think I was right to start with. It is daunting. It has been a daunting process. It's obviously a challenge at times because there's a lot of interest groups out there on different topics which are trying to get government's attention. And we try hard to consistently work directly with different ministers and their offices to make sure that they recognise that the Academy of Science is a source of independent scientific fact. And I'd have to say, in the tragedy, in a way, of the local coronavirus pandemic, one of the things about that has helped the Academy is that because, as I mentioned earlier, it is a specific acute problem with a very clear scientific basis for the way to overcome it. And so government has been very quick to encourage, to discuss with the Academy the sorts of questions that they have, as I've mentioned earlier. So it's provided an opportunity for us as the Academy to reinforce our credentials with government. So when it comes to the somewhat more complex, longer term issues, which are a bit harder to provide clear black and white answers in some circumstances, government will still come to us because they have the experience of how we responded in the acute phase of this latest crisis.
Well, it's been a very exciting period of time and much more work yet to come. John Shayan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for listening, Paul.
For more video interviews like this, just head to our website, science.org.au, or follow us on social media. I'm Paul Richards. See you soon.